Literally, what is the point of VAR if you're going to have idiots behind the screen? I'm sorry, but the officiating has just been getting worse and worse the more time goes on, and it's annoying as hell. Referees are issuing basically every sport at this point. All the biggest sports in the world seem to have important games that are iconic for being heavily influenced by refs. Basketball has the infamous Lakers-Kings series where the refs were doing their best Stevie Wonder impression. There's entire videos over 10 minutes long with nothing but ridiculous calls from the series. It's a widely accepted fact at this point that the series was rigged. Kobe straight up cracked Mike Bibby in the mouth and the foul was called on the Kings. Watching this live must have been wild for Kings fans. Come on, bro. The ref is staring directly at it. In American football, you have all kinds of them. First one that comes to mind is the infamous blatant pass interference that just wasn't called. Rams fans claim it doesn't matter because the Saints got a chance later and squandered it. Doesn't change the fact that the Saints win the game if the right call is made. There's other controversial calls like Des Bryant's famous catch, but we don't complain about that one. It went against the Cowboys, so it's okay. In football, there's an absurd amount of questionable refereeing. One major example is Chelsea and Barcelona's catastrophe of a semifinal in 2009. Referees have a lot of power in almost every sport, but in football, they have even more than usual. The ability to make one team play with one or two men down for the entire rest of the match, the ability to basically give a goal to a team with a penalty, just the slightest bit of bias against the team could derail an entire match for that team with just a couple of decisions. Recently, the Prem seems to have absurd calls or no calls week in and week out. This past weekend was yet another example, but we're not even going to start there. Let's take it back a little bit. Off rip, in the first games of the season, they was already on BS. We all remember that no call on Onana that saved United's ass in their first game against Wolves. Penalties have probably been the most inconsistent thing about referees so far this season. It's bad enough with fouls, but it's worse with handballs. Handballs are a little more opinionated than fouls, so it's harder to judge. The refs are already stupid enough as is. Putting harder decision-making on their incompetent brains is just cruel. Does anybody even know what the handball rules are anymore? It's like they change every week. One game, they don't give United a penalty for Romero's handball. I don't like United at all, but come on, bro. Are you serious? Then later, they give us a penalty for damn near the same handball by the same player. Now, maybe I'd understand if they said some shit like Garnacho's shot wasn't on target. Okay, fine. Ben White's clearly was, so I guess it might make sense. But then you give Chelsea a pen for a Saliba handball when Mudrik's header was way off. People will complain about the calls less if they were at least consistent. Højlund gets a goal against Brighton disallowed for out of bounds, even though it was inconclusive. Yet the evidence wasn't conclusive enough on the out of bounds in Arsenal versus Newcastle. Just stick to something, bro. Don't even get me started on the cards. If a Liverpool player breathes too hard on somebody, it's a red card. But Kovacic was out there trying to remove ankles against Arsenal a few weeks back, and the ref said, nah. Whatever. The refs don't protect players at all. It shouldn't take so many fouls for a player to get a card. It's wild to me that Bruno did all that BS in the Arsenal game and the only yellow card he got wasn't even for a foul. I can't get over the fact that they really just shrugged off an elbow to the back of the head. Mind you, this is after a full VAR check. I'm genuinely concerned about the vision of these referees. Are they looking through the screen? I need them to show what they say during the VAR review on live TV so we can hear the dumbass shit that's going on in their heads. I really need to know what the thought process was during this discussion. Jorginho's head jumped in front of Bruno's elbow. Yeah, I'll give him a Tylenol. He'll be all right. It was clear as day that Bruno was out to hurt Arsenal players as some sort of revenge for Havertz's bad tackle. He was losing his shit out there. He tried to 2-foot tackle Jorginho, but he missed, so he literally chased him down to whack him in the back of the head. He rammed Jorginho in the back, too, after Jorginho passed the ball already, and there was still no call. Jorginho just sitting there, a confused-ass Italian man. I don't know why Bruno chose to pick on him as if it wasn't Havertz that made the tackle. He definitely thought he was an easy target because he didn't try none of that bullshit on nobody else. My fault, I got a little sidetracked. I'm supposed to be trashing the referees. When you get a player that's losing his mind out there like Bruno, you're supposed to try to control him with the card. That's what it's for. You don't give them passes because you're scared of the home crowd. Don't be a ref if you're too pussy to make calls. Refs not protecting players is exactly why players' careers are short with injuries. Hazard spent years getting abused by Prem defenders with little protection from referees, and eventually his body started to break down. Neymar gets ripped to shreds every game to this day. He could barely go a few games without an injury by the time he was at PSG. It's already starting with Saka. He never missed games in the last few years, even with all the abuse he takes, but early this season, he's showing cracks in his armor. Missed his first league game in a couple of years, and he's clearly been off the last month or so. Arguably the worst thing of all, though, is when they review goals. How do they constantly make the wrong decision when everything is literally playing right in their face? Gabriel got bent directly over yesterday. It literally looks like Joe Wellington is doing a WWE move on him. There's no debate about it. The arms are completely outstretched, and as Gabriel jumps, he's pushed forward. He misses the ball because of this, and on top of that, the ball hits Joe Wellington's arm. He assisted a goal with his arm, bruh. Forget about Newcastle's goal, though. Luis Diaz's disallowed goal a few weeks back got to be the worst offense I've ever seen in my life. In no world was that ever offsides. They made it all worse, though, when they released the audio. They telling them to delay the game because they clearly got it wrong, and they talking about there's nothing we can do. What do you mean there's nothing you could do? Y'all are the referees. You run the entire game. You have all the power. Because of that, Tottenham are still unbeaten in first place, and Liverpool missed out on 3 important points, and they dropped from second to fourth. They benched refs after the Wolves versus United bullshit by temporarily sending them down to the championship, but that's it. Besides that, all we've gotten is apologies. Look at the Manchester race to the title a little over a decade ago. A single point can make all the difference. I don't know what they should do, but they gotta do something.